class. Welcome to Simplified Maths class. And today, Statistics 4, we are taking measures of dispersion, the second part, which is just standard deviation and variance. Alright, we are going to go straight to that. Standard deviation. Standard deviation is simply defined as the square root of the mean of the square of the deviations away from the mean. Alright, that's what the standard deviation. And there's a relationship between standard deviation and variance. Always know that anytime you have the standard deviation, the variance is always the square of the standard deviation. Whereas the standard deviation is always the square root of the variance. Please take note of that. The variance V is always standard deviation all squared. Which means when you square the standard deviation, you're getting the variance. Whereas when you are looking for the standard deviation, it is always the square root of the variance. It's always the square root of the variance, alright? So we'll be taking the standard deviation and the variance for raw data and for a frequency distribution. Alright, so let's take an example. Assuming we've been asked to find the standard deviation and the variance, find, number one, the standard deviation and the variance of, alright, so let's say 9, 8, 12, 5, 4, 7. Alright, so we want to find standard deviation and the variance of this. Okay, so solution. For us to find first, we can always begin with the variance, alright? So our variance will be equals to, for a raw data, summation x minus x bar all squared divided by n. Alright, that's the variance. Okay, so when we need the standard deviation to get, the standard deviation will be equals to the sum of x minus x bar all squared all over n, and you do what? You find the square root of the result. So standard deviation. So which means the first thing we need to find is the mean, and the mean x bar, which we have done before now, is always summation all over n. Alright, so we take 9 plus 8 plus 12 plus 5 plus 4 plus 7 and divide by how many values do we have? 6. So our mean, so that will be 9 plus 8 plus 12 plus 5 plus 4 plus 7. So we have 45. 45 divided by 6 divided by 6, you have 7.5. Therefore means that our mean is equals to 7.5. So after having the mean, what do? You bring out a table of values, alright? The table of values will enable you find the deviations. Alright, so let's go straight to that. Let's go straight to that. So we are going to bring out our table of values. Alright, in the table of values, we are going to have, first and foremost, we have our x. After that, we have x minus x bar. Then we now have x minus x bar all squared. So that's all we need. Let's take note of that. So we are going to have our x. The first values we had 9, 8, 12, 9, 8, 12, 9, 8, 12, other values we're having, 9, 8, 12, okay, so we had 9, 8, 12, 4, 5, 7, I think, right? 9, 8, 12, 5, 4, and 7. 5, 4, 7, 5, 4, 7. Okay. Alright? 5, 4, 7. Okay, so these were the values you had. 9, 8, 12, 5, 4, and 7. 5, 4, and 7. Alright? So with this, we are going to get our x minus x bar. Remember, we've calculated the x bar, which is the mean, to be 7.5. Alright, so we are going to continue from there. Okay, so 9 minus 7.5. 9 minus 7.5, that will be 1.5. So we square 1.5. 1.5 squared, 2.25. Alright, so we go to the next. 8 minus 7.5, 0.5. We square it. So we have 0.25. When we square it. So 12 minus 7.5. 12 minus 7.5, 4.5. So we square it, 20.25. So we have the next, which is 5 minus 7.5. So we square it, we have 6.25. So we have 4 minus 7.5 minus 0.5. So we square it, we have 12.25. And finally we have 7 minus 7.5 minus 0.5. We square it, gives us 0.25. Okay, so we need the total of the last column. So we will be needing the total, so that will be 2.25 plus 0.25 plus 20.25 plus 6.25 plus 12.25 plus 0.25. So we have 41.5. Therefore, we can now go straight that our variance will be equals to the sum of x minus x bar all squared all over n. Alright? So the sum of this, 41.5 all over n. N, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all over 6. So 41.5 divided by 6 will give us 6.92 approximately. 6.92 approximately. So that's our variance. So once you have our variance, the next thing is for us to get the standard deviation. Standard deviation is always the square root of the variance. So which is going to be the square root of the variance, this variance. The square root of that variance, which is 6.92. Alright, so we'll find the square root of that. The square root of 6.92. Square root of 6.92 square root. So we have 2.63. Therefore means that the standard deviation will be 2.63. So that's how we compute standard deviation and variance for a raw data. Alright, so let's go straight to a frequency distribution. Assuming we are given a frequency distribution and you're asked to find the standard deviation and the variance. How do we handle that? So find the standard deviation and the variance for a frequency distribution. Alright, so number 2, given the distribution, alright, so we have this as a distribution. So we have scores and we have number on row. Okay, so our scores is x, don't forget. Number on row is the frequency, don't forget that. Alright, so we have let's see 10, 12, 15, 20, 22, and let's say 30. So we've been given this scores, the frequency 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3. Okay, so we have 5 here. Okay, so that's what we have. Given the frequency distribution, they say we should find I variance. And then II. Okay, this time around, let's find the standard deviation first. Standard deviation. And then II will look for the variance. Okay, so we've been asked to find the standard deviation and the variance for this distribution. So let's go straight to bringing out a table of values. So in our table of values, we are going to be needing the x. After the x, we need the f. And after that, we need frequency times x to get the mean. So after that, we need our x minus x bar. Then we need our x minus x bar all squared. And then, finally, we need the frequency into x minus x bar all squared. Alright, so we'll be needing this to complete that. So our x is 10, 12, 15, 20, 22, and 30. That's our x. Alright, so we'll be needing the frequency 5, 1, 4, 5, 3, 2, 5, 3, and 2. Alright, so that will be 20, 5, 10, 15, 20. So the sum of the frequency is 20. We need this total. Then we'll be needing this total and this, and that's all. Alright, so we need fx. 10 times 5, which is 50. 12 times 1, which is 12. 15 times 4, which is 60. 20 times 5, which is 100. 32 times 3, which is 66. 30 times 2, which is 60. So we'll be needing the total of the fx. 50 plus 12 plus 60 plus 100 plus 66 plus 60. So we have 348. So with this, we can first find the mean. So we need the mean first. Mean, which is x bar. And of course, is summation what? Fx all over summation f. We'll be needing the mean first. Summation fx is 348 all over summation f, which is 20. Alright, so we divide 348 by 20, divided by 20, you have 17.4. So that's the first thing you need, the mean. So after having the mean, you input the mean here on the table, you key it here, 17.4. So that you can use this to continue. Alright, so we are going to begin. Let's complete this other part of the table. 10 minus 17.4, that's x minus x bar. 10 minus 17.4, you have minus 7.4. You find the square of that, you square it, 54.76. And then after squaring, multiply by frequency times 5. So you times by the frequency, you have 273.8. So we are through with the first one, we take the next one, x is 12. 12 minus 17.4, you have minus 5.4. You square it, 29.16, and multiply by the frequency of 1. So that still gives us 29.16. You take the next one, which is 15. 15 minus 7.4, you have minus 2.4. You square it, you have 5.76. Multiply by frequency of 4, you have 23.04. So we take the next one, which is 20. 20 minus 17.4, you have 2.6. You square it, 6.76, and multiply by the frequency of 5, 33.8. So we take the next one, 22 minus 17.4, 4.6. You square 4.6, 21.16, and then multiply by frequency of 3. So you have 63.48. And then finally we take 30 minus 17.4. You have 12.6. You square it. You have 158. 158.76. And then multiply by frequency of 2. 317.52. Okay, let me verify that figure. So we have 30 minus 17.4. That gives you 12.6 squared, which is 158. Then times 2, you have 7.52. With some order, 63.48 plus 33.8 plus 23.4 plus 29.16 plus 273.8. So have 740.8. So we have 740.8. With this, we can easily find the mean, the standard deviation and the variance. Okay, so let's get the standard deviation first. Therefore, our standard deviation, which is equals to the square root of the sum of frequency into x minus x bar all squared divided by the sum of frequency, alright? So we are going to have sum of frequency times that, 740.8. So you have the square root of 740.8 all over sum of frequency, 20. Alright, so we are going to be having the square root of 740.8 divided by 20. You have 37.04. 37.04. Therefore, the standard deviation will be equals to the square root of 37.04 will give us 6.09. So that's our standard deviation. And of course, the variance, which is the II, this is II. So the variance is the square of the standard deviation, alright? So whatever you have, 6.09, what do? You square it, and it will still give you back 37.04, approximately. So that will give you the variance, 6.09 squared, 37.09, alright, 37.04, alright? It's because we have approximated. So whatever you had here before the square root should still repeat. Alright, so when you find the square root of 6.0, remember that we had 6.08 and so on, which we approximated. So by approximation, you have this. But even if you write 6.09, alright, and then you square, and you have 37.08, it's still the same. The value here will not affect anything. So you can still take that. It's still okay. So either this or that is the same thing. So one decimal place will give you 37. So that's how we compute our standard deviation and variance for a frequency distribution. And don't forget, even if it is group frequency distribution 1 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, first get the x. Taught you how to get x, the representative mark for the class. The moment you have the x, every other thing is the same thing. It's as simple as that. There's nothing more to do. And so thank you very much for watching our slide. I want you to please subscribe to our videos and then click on like if you enjoy the class. And then don't forget to please put down your comments or your questions in the comment section below, so that in case you have any issue we need to address, we can be able to do that for you. Thank you very much and God bless you. See you in the next slide. Cheers.